Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, wildfires rage across the state with no end in sight. The state of emergency involving all of California as several massive and destructive fires keep on burning. Plus, power outages are common during fire season, but the process is much more complicated than you might think. We show you how it works. And a rally in support of some local faith leaders and military vets arrested during a demonstration at the border. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Monday, October 28th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. They are big, they are destructive, and they keep on burning. Massive wildfires roaring across parts of California. At one point, there were 330 fires burning during a 20-hour period. The largest, the Kincaid Fire, at 66,000 acres. Reporter Connor Powell begins our coverage.
California officials across the state are taking this fire season very seriously.
It's a dangerous season right now.
Firefighters are preparing for that next wind event that's coming.
The Getty Fire, just the latest wildfire to break out in the state, started overnight next to the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, quickly consuming more than 500 acres.
We have over 500 firefighters that are on the line right now in some of the most challenging topography of Los Angeles.
And as the fire forces some road closures, officials are urging residents to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice.
If they say evacuate, evacuate. If you are in the areas for a potential evacuation, get ready, get set, and if you want to go, go now.
Others working to evacuate some of the animals in the area as quickly as possible.
We have on any given day 60 to 100 horses, and they are all leaving.
Along with the Kincaid Fire in the north, the Tick Fire near Santa Clarita, and a number of other fires, tens of thousands of acres are burning in California, and all coming during a time of extremely dry conditions and very high winds.
We have not had any significant rainfall for a period of time. So that's why we're very, very concerned about these weather conditions.
In Los Angeles, Connor Powell, KPBS News.
And a wildfire that scorched nearly 100 acres between Ramona and Santa Isabel is now 98% contained. Crews are watching out for any remaining hot spots involving the Sawday fire that broke out on Friday. Gusty Santa Ana winds and dry conditions fueled that fire. The exact cause still remains under investigation. Fire crews all across the county remain on high alert as another round of Santa Ana winds are moving in our direction. SDG&E is also preparing for more possible outages. As a precaution, KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman examines how those decisions are made and how the process works.
Looking at wind speeds, humidity levels, dry fuel, vegetation in the area that may be threatened.
SDG&E has nearly 200 of these mini weather stations set up mostly in the backcountry that help make the call to shut off power.
We get real-time data every 10 minutes that goes to our meteorology team, and they're really helping grid operators make that tough decision if needed as a last resort.
While the power safety shutoffs may be controversial for some, SDG&E has their reasons. For example, here, during a high wind event, if something were to come in contact with these power lines, sparks could fall and a fire could start.
Anything that can come in contact with a line that is energized poses a threat.
Once a decision is made to shut off the power, getting it back on is not as easy as just flipping a switch.
The process to restore power can be lengthy for a number of reasons. The number one thing is we're trying to do is restore it quickly and as safely as possible. But in some areas of the region, those lines are hard to get to by foot. We need visual inspections of the line to make sure a palm frond, a lawn chair, or another thing did not fly up and hit the line and damage that line.
In rural areas of East County, that often means using a helicopter to inspect the lines, and SDG&E will only check its lines when it's not dark out.
We have to wait for winds to die down to a level that we can go fly that entire circuit line and make sure it's safe to restore power. That can be a 4 to 8 hour process, and we need daylight to do it.
Still, the utility recognizes the shutoffs are difficult for its customers.
And we understand it's disruptive to daily life, there's no question about it. But at the same time, if something happens, it's a significant problem for the region and very dangerous situations.
The idea for the shutoffs came after SDG&E power lines started fires in October of 2007. They killed 2 people, destroyed 1,300 homes, and caused hundreds of millions of dollars in damage.
So coming out of that event in 2007, the company really took a real strong look at what needs to get done to make sure that never happens again. There wasn't necessarily this process looking at turning off power for safety after that.
SDG&E says it tries to notify customers 2 or 3 days before a power safety shutoff. More could be coming as a red flag warning is in effect from late Tuesday through Thursday. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And just late today, Governor Newsom called for a total reform to all power shutoff rules and regulations. He also said customers should not be charged for public safety power shutoffs. So when can we expect the Santa Ana winds to pick up? Let's get a check on the forecast with meteorologist Erin Calandra.
Well, the good news is the winds are not quite as strong as they have been at this moment, but they are going to pick right back up. You can see in Southern California, San Diego, right along the coast, those wind gusts are around 5 miles per hour. But it's really when you get into the mountains, the deserts, through those passes, that's where those winds really pick up, and that is dangerous as far as wildfire. So right now we are still in a great risk from Northern California all the way down here through San Diego County. The Santa Ana winds, it's caused by a large pressure gradient. Winds funnel through mountain passes. They accelerate downhill at high speeds. That warms up the air, and it also spreads the fire. So you can see how that wind is coming on in from the west, creating that high fire danger. I'll have more in just a few minutes.
A rally in downtown San Diego today as 2 faith leaders and 2 war veterans faced a judge on charges related to a demonstration at the U.S. border. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler is outside federal courthouse now with the latest. Max?
Hi, Maya. Just a few minutes ago, Judge Michael Berg found the 4 defendants not guilty of disobeying orders from federal police officers. Last year's protest was organized by local religious leaders who led a march to the border fence in Imperial Beach to protest the treatment of migrants along the southern border. There, several marchers crossed a barricade set up by Border Patrol and were arrested for trespassing. Today in federal court, 4 of those protesters went on trial for failing to obey signs in the area, which prohibits getting too close to the border fence. 2 of the defendants are combat veterans and the other 2 are clergy members. One of the defendants, veteran Brittany Ramos de Barros, spoke before her trial today.
But today, as families are ripped apart under the guise of justice, as bombs are dropped under the guise of safety, we have decided that the government should have to make its case for why we are the guilty ones, for why we are more guilty than it.
Right after the verdict came out, there were cheers in the courtroom as their supporters and the clients, the defendants, breathed this huge sigh of relief. Behind me, the celebrations are ongoing. The 4 defendants came out with their arms together. They held them high, and they sang much like they marched on that beach those months ago. In downtown San Diego, Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Thanks for that report, Max. President Trump announcing the most significant death of a terror group leader since Osama bin Laden in 2011. ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died over the weekend after the U.S.-led nighttime raid. John Lawrence reports.
ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi detonated his suicide vest in a dead-end tunnel Saturday after being cornered by U.S. forces in a Syrian compound. That's according to President Trump.
He died like a dog. He died like a coward.
Baghdadi was under surveillance for a few weeks prior to the mission, Mr. Trump told reporters Sunday morning, following his death. Last week, the president was given plans of attack.
He reviewed them, asked some great questions, chose the option that we thought gave us the highest probability of success.
The covert raid involved sending 8 helicopters of elite U.S. troops toward Baghdadi's compound. This footage, reportedly of the mission, was taken by a Syrian activist. Members of the Trump administration who watched the raid unfold as it happened from the Situation Room were tight-lipped about the mission, not even telling key congressional Democratic leaders about it. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi issued a statement calling the death of Baghdadi significant, but added the House must be briefed on the administration's overall strategy in the region. Regardless, Democrats agree with the president. The death of Baghdadi is a major moment in the war on terror.
It's good news in the ongoing fight against the terrorist threat posed by jihadist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
This is a real blow against ISIS and a positive step in the fight against stateless terrorism.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
And some ISIS fighters were killed, others captured, and at least 11 children were taken into custody. The House will vote Thursday on whether to affirm the Democratic impeachment inquiry into President Trump and Ukraine. Democrats are moving forward with this formal vote after initially resisting. The vote pushes back against a White House and Republican congressional talking point that the impeachment probe is illegitimate because it hasn't been formally authorized. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the resolution would establish the procedure for open hearings and authorize the release of deposition transcripts. The Judiciary Committee would be the panel that would take up the potential articles of impeachment. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher laid out new plans today for a $115 million behavioral health center in Hillcrest. The site, located on 3rd Avenue, is between the UCSD Medical Center and Scripps Mercy Hospital. Fletcher says bringing the two together to work in partnership will be unprecedented.
The Central Regional Behavioral Health Hub to be built on this site will be the anchor for our county, a true one-stop shop, connecting individuals to step-down services and care coordination, long-term care plan that will set them on a path to stability, keep them out of our hospitals and jail, and achieve better long-term outcomes for patients and for quality of life.
The national shortage of a cancer drug for kids has caused anxiety across the country, but San Diego patients haven't been impacted. Rady Children's Hospital says it is stocked up on the drug called vincristine and doesn't expect to be affected by the shortage for now. One of 2 manufacturers stopped making the drug in July, while the other had production delays. Shipments resumed this month, but the lag caused a shortage. Vaping manufacturers are already facing criticism for marketing sweet flavors to young people. Now, 2 new studies suggest their products, flavoring, and marketing do have an impact on e-cig use among young people. Meredith Wood has a closer look at the twin studies in today's Health Minute.
Strawberry, candy, and bubblegum. New evidence supports the idea that those fruity and candy flavors may have an impact on vaping habits among young people. That's according to 2 recently published studies. The first one surveyed a group of high schoolers in Los Angeles. It found students who used fruity or candy flavors were more likely to still be vaping 6 months later and took more puffs. That's compared to the relatively few who vaped only traditional flavors like mint, menthol, and tobacco. The authors say the results show that regulations may help reduce youth exposure to flavored e-cigs. And the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is under pressure to issue a nationwide e-cigs flavor policy. The agency is also taking action against vaping companies for making unauthorized flavor products, making unproven health claims, and advertising that violates policy. A second study published in the same journal, Pediatrics, found that young people exposed to e-cig marketing were more likely to experiment within the following year. More than 70% of participants ages 12 to 24 who had never previously used tobacco said they noticed ads for e-cigs in the previous month on a variety of platforms. For today's Health Minute, I'm Meredith Wood.
Judy Woodruff tonight on the NewsHour. I talk with Vice President Pence about the killing of ISIS leader and the impeachment of the president. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Get ready for more dangerous fire weather. Very high winds and very low humidity levels are on the way. Meteorologist Erin Calandra has details.
We are still seeing very dangerous wildfire conditions here across California. Right now, we are under a fire watch. Here in the pink, that's where we are under a watch. To the north of us in this darker pink, that's where we are seeing the red flag warning for today. It is very dangerous out there. Certainly you shouldn't have any kind of fires or anything that could spark a blaze. There are plenty burning right now from Northern California down through Southern California. And there are thousands of firefighters trying to battle these fires, but the weather is not exactly cooperating. We have a high pressure system in place, and that's giving us the Santa Ana winds. They are flowing on down out of the mountains, drying the air. Look at the dew points. They will continue to drop down to the teens over the next couple of days, so very dry. The good news is temperatures are starting to drop back down to around average. So for tonight, Ramona down to 35, El Cajon at 47, and in Borrego Springs, 45 degrees for those lows. Now tomorrow, those winds are going to kick right back up, and we are going to see an extreme fire risk. Fires will spread rapidly, and also humidity will be under 10%. Those gusts could be howling up to 80 miles per hour in some spots, but likely 60 to 70 miles per hour. So it is going to be another gusty day tomorrow. Temperatures in Ramona at 70, San Diego reaching 72 with sunshine, and Mount Laguna 58 degrees for the high. Those winds will be relentless. They will continue to flow on in through the rest of this week. Expect to see sunshine each day here along the coast. Temperatures will remain in the mid-70s. That will be the case inland. And in the mountains, dry, breezy conditions, temperatures in the upper 50s, and in the deserts will be in the 60s and 70s, reaching the 80s by the weekend. Back to you.
It's a way of life as old as California itself, but a changing economy is making it tough for farmers to keep their tradition going. From the California Dream Project, KQED shows us the reality of the new California farmer.
So our day-to-day, there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on at the same time. Vineyard work kind of comes in waves. So there's times of year where it's really just irrigating and watching it grow. And then there's times of year where it's like something's got to get done right now. I'm Tara Coronado. I'm 28. I'm a fifth-generation farmer in the Sacramento River Delta, and I am the owner of Beaver Vineyards. When you picture a farmer, picturing an older male is typical because that's who they are. That's probably the majority of farmers in America right now. I grew up on a farm just a little upriver from here, but I was never encouraged to be a farmer. It was never talked about, and I think it was because my parents knew the struggles of farming, so they encouraged me and my sister to go to college and find our own path in life. So I ended up moving away, and I was a nanny. So my nanny job gave me a 2-week vacation, and it happened to be during corn harvest. So I came home, I helped my dad with corn harvest, and something just clicked. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I loved being out here on the farm.
Hi, Dad. How's it going?
And my dad didn't really want me to get into growing corn. He just felt like I needed to learn about other crops and other areas of agriculture. He saw this program called the California Farm Academy, and he suggested that I look into it. It was such a great program. There's about 15 of us in the class, and only me and one other guy were from farming backgrounds. So I think we are going through like a new transition of like people being interested. How do I grow my own food? Or where does my food come from? So there's this new wave, you know. The thing that class did for me was it forced me to write a business plan. I finished that class with a business plan called Beaver Vineyards. 2018 we planted, and then in 2020 we'll get our first harvest. But it's gonna be a while till I can afford an employee to help me just do this little stuff, you know? I mean, like, I'd love to have one now if I could, but I don't have any income. I have no income off this until we harvest. My dream for Beaver Vineyards is to not be in debt, which I think is like every farmer's dream, because I think a lot of farmers take out a loan every single year and they got to pay that loan off every single year. Through social media, I've connected with some women that have moved to other states to be able to buy property. I mean, their property is half the price of what it is here. My dad's side of the family immigrated from Belgium and they came straight to California. So it's like, this is where we're at. But it is so expensive to do anything here, anything. A lot of farmers are selling. And I think there is a pressure, and this is why my dad discouraged me from doing corn, is you have to have so many acres to make it. Where small farms are normally like mixed vegetables and stuff like that, and I think the diversity is important. And I think small farms are really important because I think people who start farming a little bit smaller, I hope that they're going to be more successful.
And KPBS is part of the California Dream Project, a statewide public media collaboration. You can find out more stories at kpbs.org/dream. A top ranking for the San Diego State football team. The Aztecs are now 25th in the latest Associated Press Top 25 poll. After beating UNLV on Saturday, the 7-1 Aztecs moved ahead of Texas. This is the first time SDSU has been ranked since October 2017 and the 9th time under coach Rocky Long. SDSU has a bye this week but returns to action November 9th against Nevada at home. A new and unique art exhibit is on display in Oceanside, and the focus might just take you by surprise. KPBS Midday Edition co-host Jade Hindman takes us to tiny canvases.
So I'm here at the Oceanside Museum of Art, here with Jan Arnold, who curated this art exhibit called Tiny Canvases. Tell me a bit about it, because this exhibit, you go through a number of rooms. All of them tell a story, and it all starts right here.
It really starts here, and I think the name says it all. It's Tiny Canvases, the art of nails. And we thought in this image that we would feature this amazing corset, all made out of nail tips. So there are about 1,000 nail tips. This was made by the Blondes during our Ruby anniversary at CND. And you know, we wanted to take a look at the art form of nails and tell the extraordinary story of what goes into the art, who the artists are, what the history of nail adornment is. Such a rich, rich history.
And you know, I feel like, you know, people are under the perception that nail art, this is something new, and it's been around since 3200 BC.
Yes, I hear people all the time saying, well, nail art just became popular in the last 5 years, when in fact, yes, it has a very rich history, but I think making nail art tangible to every woman really depends on innovation, which takes us to the CND history.
But tell me, your father actually created this in the garage.
In the garage? I actually have a picture of the garage right here. So right in Oceanside, up on Hunsaker Street, my dad was a dentist by profession, but he was also a chemist. So in his garage, he had the whole lab set up. As kids, he would design toothpaste and mouth rinse. One day, a manicurist, back then was called manicurist, sitting in his chair, and she said, I need something to sculpt nails, long, thin, color stable, beautifully natural looking. And he discovered Solar Nail, the first ever cross-linked polymer resin. And that set the course for a 40-year legacy of innovation.
Oh my gosh, and that 40 years takes us into here.
Yes.
Where you can see the fruits of that.
The fruits of our labor. So this is our exhibit of the actual, there are about 10,000 tiny canvases in all of our displays. And each board tells a different story, from avant-garde to vintage pop art, every story you can imagine. But when you look at the intricacy of the art, you see this little bird skull. It's actually made out of liquid and powder acrylic by hand. by Winnie Wong in this case. These flower bouquets are all made out of shellac gel polish.
What's the in thing right now? I mean, I see all of these glamorous nails over here. They're bejeweled.
I have a quote that beautiful nails on the hand do for the hand what a stiletto does for the leg. So when you push a little length, it adds elongation, it adds elegance. Try to hold the champagne glass with stumpy nails. It doesn't look the same. Even your posture changes, you know, when you have glamorous nails. So I think pushing length, a little more pointed almond shapes.
So out of the tiny canvas gallery, we walk into the runway.
Now it's our time to shine.
It is.
Right?
And you really get to see how much nail art has influenced the fashion industry with this room.
Absolutely. We have lookbooks dating back to 1995 when it really started to grow on the runway. We now have partnered with over 300 designers, many of the looks brought to life in the lookbooks to pay homage on the relationship between nails and fashion and how nails can really become that ultimate fashion accessory for every woman.
So that closes out the Tiny Canvases art exhibit here at Oceanside Museum of Art. Jan Arnold, thank you so much for joining us. Jan has been the visionaire of this exhibit and is co-founder of C&D. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. You can find tonight's stories, including Tiny Canvases, on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.